Welcome back, guys. I am so sorry that I wasn't able to save the original version of this from the live Lunch and Lubes on Instagram. I feel like we had a good chat there, but then my app froze afterwards when I was trying to post it and just deleted it completely. So the file no longer exists. So we are remaking it here in my kitchen. And today we are talking about oil analysis. So I want to do this in a three-part series. Part one is the intro and kind of the very important questions you need to ask yourself and things you need to consider when thinking about starting on an oil analysis journey. Part two, I would like to talk about best practices when pulling samples and going through that process. And then part three, I want to get into how to interpret the sample reports, the readout reports. So let's get started. Now, there are a handful of things I want you guys to consider, but the number one most important question when you are thinking about oil analysis is to know your why. What is your reasoning for doing oil analysis in the first place? And I want to preface that this video is targeted to everyone under the sun. So every channel or sector, every industry can use and benefit oil analysis. So whether you are a automotive repair shop and you get a car in that has something funny going on and you need to pull a sample, if you are a truck fleet manager and you have a large fleet of over-the-road trucks, if you are a municipal mixed fleet manager, if you are a construction company, if you are a manufacturing outfit where you have stationary equipment running oils that need to be tested. So this applies to everyone. What is your why? Are you looking to increase your drain intervals? Are you maybe trying to test out a new viscosity? So if you have a handful of pieces of equipment out of a bunch that call for one viscosity and the rest call for another, and you would like to see if you can consolidate, we can look into that by doing some oil analysis. Maybe you are trying to prevent a failure and do a blood test on your machines just to peer into the health and what is going on in there to try to stay ahead of any breakdowns. Or maybe we are trying to identify potential contaminants that have entered the system, like maybe somebody topped off with the wrong product or you suspect they put the wrong product in the wrong place. We can see that by doing oil analysis. And different industries are obviously all going to have different needs, right? So knowing your why is your number one question to ask, because if you go into this without having a reason, without having a real purpose, a plan in place, you are not going to get your money's worth. You're not going to get the best results from doing this. So the second thing I want you to think about is how you're going to establish your program. How often are you going to be pulling these samples? Is this going to be every time you are doing a drain? Is this going to be halfway between your drains? Is this going to be maybe on a quarterly or semi-annual basis? So thinking about how often you want to do these, and then when and where. So once you have your frequency, which is also kind of your when, you are going to understand the where. So is this going to be happening in your shop where you have control, where you are servicing your own equipment? Is this going to be on a job site out in the elements? Trying to determine what is going to be best suited for your needs, and then making a plan around that, because different things are going to be considered based upon where you are doing your testing. Who is another important factor to consider. So who is going to be championing this for you? Are you going to have one person kind of overseeing and implementing the program that will be managing different people in different places actually doing the sample pulling? Or are you yourself going to be doing the whole thing plus pulling the samples? Are you going to be bringing in a consultant third party to do this on your behalf? Is your dealer going to be doing this? Do you outsource your services to a repair shop and you're going to have them do this? You need to figure out who and know ahead of time who is going to be doing your sample pulling and championing the entire program. What products and what components need to be decided upon ahead of time? So are you going to be doing this just the engine system? Is this going to include all of the products? So say you're a construction company, are you going to be doing the differentials, the hydraulics, the engines, the DEF, the coolant, the fuel, or just one? Maybe you're a manufacturer, you have a large hydraulic system in a press of some sort, and that's the only place you're going to be doing your sampling. So knowing which components and what products those are: engine oils, hydraulic oils, gear oils, etc. And then maybe in your circumstance, you have a very large fleet that rarely comes back in for service, that is spread out across a large geographical region. Maybe you need to consider an auto analyzer. So these are little pieces of technology that are added, bolted on to the machines, to the systems, and actually do the testing for you on the regular basis. So you have chosen, without requiring a person, without having human error, that is analyzing that product on the spot and sending you the results, the reports. So maybe that is something that might be a best option for your needs. And then to pick a partner in this. So are you going to be utilizing your lubricants distributor? Are you going to be, again, hiring a third-party consultant? Is it going to be your outsourced repair shop providing this service? Maybe you're working directly with a lab that also does the servicing itself. So picking out in your region what are the best options for you and your needs, and kind of knowing that and researching that ahead of time, because different places are going to have different options available to them. So let's dig into a little more of the who of all of those questions. So consistency is the number one thing when doing oil analysis. If at all possible, you want the same person, same group of people doing the sample pulling every single time, and you want to repeat that environment and those circumstances as much as you can every single time. Oil sampling has to have consistency, because otherwise, when you are looking at the trends of your different results, say you pull them quarterly, but in one quarter, the first quarter, this was done by this guy in this environment, and the machine had run for this many hours, but then the next time you pull it, it's a completely different set of circumstances and different person doing the pulling. You are going to have skewed results when you're doing that. And so to get the best look into what is happening in the machine, we need to keep it as consistent as possible. And then, are you going to be providing training for this person? Or is your partner that you're aligning yourself with for oil analysis going to be providing the training for this program? It's very important to work with someone closely that has experience in this, that knows, the ins and outs of oil analysis, that can coach you up on the best practices outside of me and outside of these little lube chats that I'm doing. I want someone my favorite way to do this for you, my most preferred way for you to do this, is to work with a professional that can walk you through this, provide the training, and then maybe help you understand your results. So that kind of leads into my final points here is, with the partner that you choose, do the programs that they offer make sense for your fleet, your needs? Is the cost right for your situation? Does the cost outweigh the benefits, and so on and so forth? And that's something only for your fleet. And the ease of collecting and sending samples. So do they provide you with sample pulling equipment to actually take it out of the component or the machine? Are they helping you send those samples into the lab? Is someone coming around and collecting them in a timely fashion? Or are you required to mail them in somewhere? How far away is that lab? What are those shipping costs going to look like for you? So keeping that in mind as well. And then finally, your reporting readouts. Do you have someone that knows how to interpret them or that can train you in how to interpret them, because the funny thing about oil sampling is when you get that result back, these are machines that are doing the analyzing of this, right? And so they're programmed in to have set parameters for certain things, depending on how you fill out your paperwork and what you're telling that machine this sample is and where it came from and what it should, kind of giving it an idea of what it should look like. It is going to potentially highlight a bunch of things in red that maybe aren't necessarily concerning, or it might leave off something that would be concerning because based on how the person filled it out, and let's say they didn't fill it out correctly, it's going to highlight something. And it's also programmed in so that if something is 1 part per million over its threshold that it says is now a problem, it's going to flag it as red, and maybe that 1 part per million isn't really a problem. And so it is important to have someone who can take those results, look and analyze at everything that has is feeding back from the machine, right? And is able to tell you based on what they see is really happening in the machine and what you should be looking for and what you should be doing as next steps. There are, and I will provide these, there are very helpful tools that if you are doing them on your own, like spectrometer analysis, so you know where metals kind of came from where potentially and where to look in the machine. Same thing with what additives should be in there and how they should be appearing, and also contaminants and where that could be coming from. But just someone who knows the ins and out. What I love the most about oil analysis, my favorite part, is actually interpreting the results, because to me it's like a puzzle. I don't even look at what you inputted to say what the product was, what component it came from. I look at the results first to see if I know, to pick up on what is actually in the proof is in the pudding, right? And see if it matches up with what you wrote on the slip. So I can actually tell if someone topped off with a different product or switched brands potentially, or they say it's one viscosity, but it's reading out as another. So let's dig into why that might be. So that's my favorite part. I love that. And I'm happy to help you guys with that in any way that I can. So I have my box of samples here. This is actually a coolant sample kit from Shell. It's got the bottles in there, and you have your paperwork that will come with it. I kind of started to make an example. It's backwards on the screen here, but we have a QR code for Shell that you place on the bottle, and you can actually go online and pre-register that sample. So when it arrives at the lab, they scan the QR code and they already know. They don't have to rely on any of this written in over here. And sometimes that can help take out error, because if someone is pre-registering something where they actually have to sit down and go through the prompts, they're going to be more inclined to be more correct and detailed in what they're entering than, say, somebody who's just pulling the sample and walking over to a desk and kind of quickly jotting down what is going on. But this is a great way too. I'm not trying to knock the handwritten part, but at Shell, we do offer the QR coding and the pre-registering through the portal. And then you fill out here or online everything that it asks you, as much and as detailed as you can. And you send her in, and we provide these little packs that seal up. So you put the bottle right inside, you pull off the sticker, seal it shut, and then there's a little pocket here on the front where you stick your paperwork with the barcode, and then you send her off. So that is just a very quick high-level overview of how to get started in oil analysis. The most important questions to ask yourself and things to consider before you really dive into a program. And I hope that this helps. I would love for you guys to do a little homework and go back and kind of think about the bullet points that I went over as if you were going to implement this with your fleet or your equipment. And then you'll be more prepared for our part 2, so that when we're talking about best practices, it all kind of clicks a little more. So I look forward to next week's part 2. I will be working a expo during the week, all week next week, so the timing may be off again. I will try to hop on as I am able. So thanks, guys. And this will be posted up. You can put any questions you have in the comments. You can also send me a direct message on Instagram with any questions you have, and I will do my best to get back to you. So thank you.